Welcome to a new episode of Oh, She's Funny. I'm your host, LP, and I'm so stoked about this week's guest. You've thought, oh, she's funny when you've seen her stand up all over the place, or her writing on shows like One Day at a Time, or That 90s Show, or her very own podcast, Her Lights. It's the always hilarious Erin Foley is here. Hey, buddy.
Woo,
woo, woo.
so good to see you.
Woos from everyone. So good to see you, pal. I feel like it's been too long. And then a sporadic run-in at a Sarah McLachlan concert the other day.
That was the first time anybody's ever said that. A sporadic run-in at a Sarah McLachlan concert.
I haven't run into you in probably 10 years. And then there we were, just amongst all the ladies. I wore flannel. I thought it was appropriate. And
it was 90s. And like, I was thinking too, I remember seeing her at, What If We Just literally did Sarah McLachlan for the next hour? Because she's
not
hilarious.
Mad about it. She's the funniest.
Oh my God.
I laughed all night.
The banter. Let me tell you about this next song. And I was just rolling. But I was thinking, is she like a lesbian icon? I mean, no, but yes, but
I guess so, because she did Lilith Fair, and that was so lesbian. Anyone I told that I was going to Sarah McLachlan was like, what a lesbian night you're going to have. And I'm like,
yeah,
I guess I am. And it was pretty gay.
But I also thought there was tons of straight people there, at least in my section, in the cheap seats.
There was tons of middle-aged straight people, men and women.
Yeah, so I was like, that's why I was like, well, maybe.
I think if we were up in the front, it was a lot of lesbians.
Yeah.
They paid the money for the good seats.
Yeah. I was in the last minute ticket section U, which was just a bizarro cross section of Los Angeles. There's this one woman just literally on Instagram the whole time in front of me. And I was like, it's Hollywood Bowl, gorgeous night, Sarah McLachlan in all white.
Voice of an angel.
Face of an angel. And she's like, hey, look at I just was like, I
had some people next to me just chit-chatting about her boyfriend the whole time, not paying attention to anything. Yeah.
There was
and then I had an adorable lesbian couple in front of me, both with the same haircut, which I always find amusing.
It's just terrific. It's just that age-old question, like, sisters, lesbians, Midwest basketball coaches. What do we got here?
German tourists. Anyway, it was a great run and great show. 30-year anniversary. My 15-year-old self had a great night.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we're here to talk about comedy. Erin, I feel like you're so funny. You must have been a funny baby.
Roll the tape.
Roll the baby tape. Just baby with jokes. Were you a baby with jokes?
Well, I was born, with a clown nose in a cigar.
I knew it.
Just doing bits.
Doing bits.
Doing bits in the crib. We call them crib bits.
Yep, crib bits. That's also a snack food.
Yes, cribbits and cribbits. I think we just had a really funny family.
Did you? The whole fam is funny.
Yeah, well, I have a twin sister. I think you knew that.
I know that. Yes.
Yeah, you've probably met Megan before. And I think she's just one of the funniest people I've ever met, just in her own way. And we have our own secret dumb twin language that she cracks me up so much. And my dad, R.I.P. Dick Foley, was seriously one of the funniest people I've ever met. So I think, and my mom is quirky funny. My older sister's funny because she's not trying to be funny. And so I think it was just, we grew up in a very, just a lot of, just tons of laughing and, just Irish Catholic suppressing. You can't talk about anything. I was
going to say, it sounds lovely. It's idyllic and lovely, but then there's the other side there where suppressing. Okay, well, that's
So you lead with laughter when you can't really have a legitimate heart-to-heart conversation.
Sure. Okay, well, that's nice though. And then at some point you were like, "This is a direction I could go in as a career."
Yeah, that was kind of wild. I had honestly, which we'll get into, watching comedies with my family. And this is sort of, that's how I knew comedy. I had no interest in performing. I didn't do any theater. I just played sports the whole time. I played sports in college.
Where are you growing up? Where was this?
This was New York, then Rhode Island. So we
Okay.
moved to Rhode Island when I was like 12. We did New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island. We moved around a bit. But yeah, you meet so many performers where like, this is the dream. And, it was not on my radar, like literally at all. And
Okay.
then junior year of college, I was supposed to study abroad. I'll make this quick. Supposed to study abroad, and I hurt my back playing basketball, so I couldn't play basketball. I couldn't travel, and so I joined an improv group at college. Someone literally signed me
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I didn't even sign up because I was like, no way, it's terrifying. And so I just was like, all right, well, what else am I going to do? So
I
I
guess
went
I'll
to the
go.
audition. Yeah,
Okay.
it was that ass
Wow, that's
backwards.
so
So
fate
random.
sending you to on the right path. Like you have to, someone just signed you up for this thing that you're so innately going to be good at.
It was just one of those like why like when you look back on your like it was such a painful time in my life because like I couldn't play sports. My back was so jacked
Were you so
and it changed.
heartbroken?
I was so heartbroken. It changed literally the course of my life. I was just going to keep playing, sports and then I was probably going to be a teacher or something because I was like a family full of, professors and teachers and nerdies. So I was like, well, that sounds fun. Like it's interactive. I knew I couldn't work a 9 to 5 job.
What were
So
you majoring in college?
American Studies, which I was such a nerd. I loved it so much. It's like you're in and out
American
of every,
Studies.
yeah, you're in and out of like every department. I swear by it. I think it's the greatest major. It was like full liberal arts. I took Etruscan archaeology. I took
I don't
like,
know
it
what
was,
word you just said.
yeah, it was just like we have like a very nerdy family, very like academic family.
Smart
Yeah,
and funny. The Foleys are killing it.
they're a hot mess, but we are successful in different ways.
So you take
But
this
yeah,
improv, you stumble your way into this improv audition, and
yeah.
then so you had to try out for this group.
I had to try out for this group. It was called Run With It. And I got into it. So I made the cut and had a blast.
So
And I
fun.
know everybody makes fun of improv as they should, but good improv is just so fun to watch. It's just
So
hard
fun
to,
to watch and so fun
yeah.
to be a part of.
It literally felt like it saved me. So I did that junior and senior of college and I absolutely loved it. And then this whole thing was like, wow, this is this something, and I knew I was moving to New York City. My older sister was in New York City. My twin and I were going to, so we all lived together in New York City when we were like 21. And so I was like, all right, well, what I'll do is I'll just try this improv and then, just kind of, can I swear on the show? Fuck around for a bit and then I'll go to
Fuck
grad
shit,
school. That
bitch.
fuck shit bitch. I'll see you next Tuesday. And then I joined the world's worst improv troupe. I mean, I auditioned for it. This is like Backstage Magazine, New York City,
Yeah.
97, 98, 99. And my first so I get into this troupe. LP, I had when they said headshot and resume, this is why literally anybody just keep your head down. Anybody can make it. I don't know what this making it is, but I had a business resume. I literally had like my temp resume because I was
Right.
trying to
Like I
get
was in a sin at
like
whatever.
I took my older sister's job history, copied and pasted it, and
Yes.
then I went to get a passport photo, and I had a passport photo stapled onto my business resume. I thought
Passport.
that's what they meant. Literally, I walk into this audition in New York
Was it
City.
tiny? It was a tiny
Yes,
photo?
it was a little tiny photo stapled to a business resume. And then I look around and I see all these headshots and I was like,
Oh,
should I run out the door?
I
But I
have the
just
wrong size.
yeah. And the woman that was running the troop was like, I said, I'm sorry. I was like, like fresh off the boat. She was like, no, this is great. She goes, I'm going to be laughing about this for a while. And I was like, great.
Some, but
But
then you're
yeah,
so funny. It doesn't matter. You get it.
I get it. And our performances were at 6:30 at
Yes.
New York Comedy Club, which is now a great comedy club. But back in the day, it was kind of a shithole. East, 24th Street. And we did our really terrible improv from 6:30 to like 7:30. You had to bring all these people. It was a racket. But then I stayed and watched the stand up. And I had never heard of stand up comedy before in my life, honest to God. But we
Wow.
were in a
Do you
stand up
remember who
comedy
was
club.
there?
I just remember before I started like becoming obsessed with like Judy Gold and Jim Gaffigan and following people around the city. Legitimately, that's what I did. Susie Essman, Joy Behar. I mean, just,
Yes.
champions. I just remember sitting in the back watching the stand up thinking, this is amazing. Like it wasn't even honestly good comedy, but it was just like you could just get up by yourself, not have to deal with seven other people's schedules and practice and whatever. I think it was the autonomy that like literally drew me to it, and that you
Mm.
could talk about anything you wanted. And I thought, well, maybe I should just try this. And that's literally how I just thought it was going to be like for like just try some shit out and then go to grad school. I had no intention of this being a career.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so interesting. Always wanted to try stand up, but the opposite was true for me. The individualness of it is what kept me away. I liked improv because there was like someone to catch me. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
to say, and then there's a person right there.
Wait, how did you get into this whole world?
I
I
was
don't
a
think I know
UCB
that.
I was a UCB person.
Okay,
So I
okay.
did improv and was like on a Herald team and did sketch shows and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then
because like since I met you, I've always just put you, I mean, I know you're directing and writing and all that stuff, but like I always just consider you as a funny like performer. You're just funny, whatever,
thanks.
everything you do, but I just was like thinking, wow, I don't know how you got into it.
Yeah, stumbled into improv that way. I didn't really know that was a thing either coming from Virginia. It was like you must have to win the lottery or something to be like work in television. That's like the coolest thing I've ever heard of. And then I took a really weird sketch writing class in New York. And do you remember Andy Milonakis? He had like a really weird sketch show on MTV. He was like a
That name sounds like familiar, but I don't know how.
And he
Yeah.
was like a Jimmy Kimmel. He did stuff on Jimmy Kimmel, but he was like, "This class is weird. You're funny. Go to UCB." And I was like, "Okay, what's that?" And then I went there and like found the people.
Wait, UCB New York?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk about, I don't know, you're in charge, but can I give you my a UCB reference that you might know?
Yeah.
Well, because you were in it. I wasn't in it. Someone told me to go see a UCB show, right? So
Yeah.
this was, I don't know what the year was. I don't know, early 2000s, late 90s. And it was in the theater where the toilet was not attached to the floor. Like it was that old black box theater
Yeah. Like
in the
on 20
20s.
something
Yeah,
street.
yeah,
Yes.
20 something. And that was the first time I saw Amy Poehler, Matt Besser, like the original UCB,
Yep.
the four. Who
Ian
was it?
Roberts and Matt
Ian,
Walsh.
okay. Blown away.
Yep.
And this was before they became popular. So let's say the show was at 7 o'clock. I saw them regularly. I probably went, I don't know, half a dozen times, and I could get there at like 5 of 7. Then all of a sudden it was like, you got to get there at 6:30. Then all of a sudden it was like, you got to get there at 6. And then like a line
The
wrapped
line
around the
wrapping
corner.
around.
But it was such a dingy theater. When you went to the bathroom, literally you had to almost hang onto the wall because the toilet was like not like attached. Then I went to see the taping of their pilot. I was just like absolutely obsessed.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Cut to a random NBC party I'm at. I have, I don't know, half a dozen gin and tonics. I see Amy Poehler, who is like, a dream. And I'm like, I gotta say something, which I normally never do. And I go up to her, half in the bag, and I go, I was at the theater with the toilet, and the toilet wasn't like, I'm literally, the next morning, I was like, oh my God, I was screaming, the toilet wasn't attached.
Right. What was her reaction?
Gracious, because I was just basically saying how much I love her.
Right. Okay.
But like literally
She's
made
a very
such
nice
an ass
person.
made such an ass out of myself. Yeah, just scream.
Fantastic.
I went to your pilot. I was there at 7 o'clock. Like, just I woke up. I was like, oh God, gin, gin, gin.
Gin, friendly gin. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's so
Um,
cool. Our paths probably like we were probably on the same streets at the same random gay events, and I didn't
the
even know you.
the very first UCB show I went to, the line was so long, I get seated and I'm in the very back of the theater, like so far in the back, there's no more seats. I'm standing behind the seats, like trying to see over the seats, my little like 5'3" self, like looking over the thing. And at the top of the show, they do a bit where they have a seat saved in the front, and they're going to go pick someone who has a terrible seat and give them the best seat in the house. And they pick me, and I get the best seat in the house. And I have this like wonderful experience where I like watch Ian Roberts do one man improv like by himself, and he's just like incredible.
Genius.
And like I got a special seat, and I was like, what is this magical place? And
My God, that's awesome. That is such a cool story.
yeah, sort of then like started taking classes and sort of everything since then to that place.
Wow. It
Props
was
to UCB.
so, yeah, it was so pivotal. One night I went and Conan O'Brien's wife did the guest monologue. I
Great.
just was like, what? Like, it was just, yeah. And then seeing the stand up, I mean, the stand up was just, still to this day, New York City stand up. I mean, it's just unbelievable who they would let you in free if you were a comic. So I just went to every club and would stand in the back and watch like all these amazing performers. And then Caroline's, which unfortunately is closed now, they'd get all the huge headliners and I'd go in the back and watch like Wanda and Brian Regan, and it was tremendous. Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah.
So that's like your grown-up stand-up education as a young person. Let's talk about your comedy influence, who we're going to reveal. Please tell us.
Carol Burnett.
What a history-making, wonderful woman, Carol Burnett, still with us at 91 years old.
91. She was just on Kimmel and her timing was boom, boom, boom.
She
Literally
has,
saying she wanted to sleep with Bradley Cooper. I don't, she just like blows me away. I cannot believe how amazing. Like, I want to be like that at 91,
I
just being
know,
like,
right?
yeah, I want to shag that one.
Maybe
She's just funny.
maybe comedy keeps your wits about you. Like Betty White was so with it, Joan Rivers, everybody's like fucking
Yeah.
snappy and like, why I still got jokes.
I got bits. I got crib bits. I got old
I
lady
still got
bits.
crib bits. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Were you watching like tell me about your Carol Burnett fandom? Were you watching the Carol Burnett show as a kid? Like where did it come from?
Yeah, it all starts with my family. Like, that's why I honestly picked her. Like, I could pick her if I had just no, just because she obviously is like the funniest woman ever, arguably. You could throw Lucille Ball. You could have some competition. To me, Carol Burnett, the reason why I picked her is because I have these amazing memories of watching, when was it on? It was like 60, I wrote it down, 67 to 78. So obviously I wasn't watching it then, but I don't know, probably my first memories of watching comedies with my family were, I don't know, maybe I was 10, like 9 or 10.
Mhm.
And we used to sit down as a family and watch the Carol Burnett show. Probably a
Yeah.
lot of reruns because it ended in 78. So I guess it was all reruns, whatever.
Yeah, me too.
But I have like the best memories of, yeah, literally all like as a family sitting around the television, dying laughing. And then my
Dying.
dad reenacting Tim Conway's bits. He'd shuffle, it was like Mr. What was his name? She was Miss Wiggins and he was, I wrote it down because I remember that, Mr. Tudball. If you remember, he's just shuffling, and my dad would do all the bits. He'd be like, oh, do the old guy. Like it was just like we would reenact, or basically it was my dad and I just being total jackasses. We would reenact all these characters. And then my mom, I think the quintessential moment, and this was on like a Carol Burnett. She did like a PBS special back in the day of like her favorite bits. And it was, the bit of the Scarlett O'Hara coming down the
Yes.
stairs.
Which
And
was a favorite bit of mine, and I don't even think I understood what Gone with the Wind was like as a 10-year-old watching that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was
And
still
then,
so funny.
I mean, the curtain, when she comes down the stairs And if for some of your listeners that haven't seen it, just give yourself a week of your life and just watch the Carol Burnett show. But she comes down the stairs, Gone with the Wind, style, and she has the curtain rod in the dress. And also Bob Mackie, the stylist, was the
Yes.
stylist on the show. That was his bit. He actually styled the dress with the curtain rod and proposed that bit. Like she always used to say, like it was such like a family approach to the show. Like everybody was like writing bits and backstage camera people, everything. It was just like such a like everybody all in. So Bob Mackie had all this influence with the wardrobes into the bits. That was a show. That is a line. He says Harvey Korman, or no, yeah, Harvey Korman says to her like, you look beautiful or whatever, and that dress is spectacular. And she said, I just saw it in the window and I had to have it.
Yes.
And my mom and I have been saying that line literally if we just like walk by a store and be like, oh, I saw it in the window, I had to have it. Like these are just kind of running Foley family bits. So
Yeah.
that to me, like I didn't even, it's sort of like you have this influence, but you don't even know it. We just literally grew up just like obsessing over these comedies. And Carol Burnett were some of my, there was others, obviously Woody Allen, which I know is problematic, but back in the day, like
Before we
Laurel and
knew.
Hardy, Woody Allen, but the Carol Burnett show to me was the quintessential, comedy memories I have as a kid of just dying laughing.
And she was the only woman doing a variety show like that, and they
Yeah.
didn't want to let her do it. I don't know if you in your research you read about like her contract and how she like pulled this trigger that they had a sort of clause in her contract that like if she didn't do a certain show, then like, oh, we'll let you do a few episodes of like whatever you want to do if we haven't done a certain thing by the end of your contract run. And she was like, I think I'm gonna pull that trigger and I want to do a variety show. And they were like, no, 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 like you should just do this like sitcom, variety shows are for men and women don't do that. It's not going to be great. And she was like, I want to do it. So we're going to do it. And then it was like successful and nominated for 23 Emmys or something and ran for 11 seasons and a spin-off Mama's Family and, a beloved
It's,
show of a classic of American comedy.
yeah. That's why to me, these women like Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball, I think those two really stand out for taking such, um, they just said like, this is what I'm like the pushing, what they had to do to get a show on the air was when you think of the word like trailblazers, right?
Yes.
So Carol Burnett taking like just having the wherewithal and the confidence of saying like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I know I have the talent. I have the belief. This is, today that would be like, wow, that's an impressive story. But in the 50s and the 60s, where
Yeah.
women had no agency, for her to stand up and say like, no, like this is how I'm going to do it. I mean, if you gave a woman right now, let's say you gave Kristen Wiig, right, National Treasure, you say, can Kristen Wiig do a variety show every week, taped, twice, same night in front of a live studio audience, and have it run for 11 years? Like
That's
it would
not an
never,
easy.
like it would never happen, right? Like you know what I mean? The whole system is just also just broken now, anyway. But like, it just makes her story all the more impressive. Just full disclosure, it's not like Kristen Wiig couldn't do it. She's just,
No, we love
you know,
Kristen Wiig.
she's an icon. She can make
We'd love
anything
to work on
funny.
a variety show with her.
Absolutely.
Let's pitch that.
Let's
Speaking of
pitch
Kristen
that.
Wiig, her and Carol Burnett doing Palm Royale, which was like how fun and adorable for them.
I know it's one of those things where I saw Carol Burnett on Kimmel, and she was talking about how she's in a coma. I watched it. I mean, of course I'm going to watch it. It's Kristen Wiig and Carol Burnett and Alison Janney. It's like a dream
Laura
sequence.
Dern and yeah.
Laura Dern. I mean, it's so ridiculous. But like, this is what I mean by her timing. She's 91. She's on Kimmel, and she was like, "Well, I was in a." She's like, well, I was in a coma, so I didn't say anything and I was in a coma, just lying there for 7 weeks. And then aside she goes, it was a great gig. And, just like boom. And then she was like, and then they showed a clip of her, like, mumbling. And she was like, it was all improvised, and she goes, well, she's like, well, of course it was improvised. I mean, how are you going to write on the, you know what I mean? And you're just like, it's just 91 and just crushing it. But when you go back and watch, of course, I had to, just because it's a pleasure to go back and watch
Yep.
so many sketches just to get myself, ready for this podcast. It is, everything holds up. I mean, this is sketch comedy, late 60s, 70s, and
Yeah.
I'm dying all over again. Just like, it's just unbelievable how funny that show was.
I remember really loving when they would break during sketches, just how funny that was to see them make crack each other up.
That to me was like the show within the show. There's
Yeah.
reels online now of like, best 20 minutes of them, cracking each other up. And it's funny too. Isn't that interesting? I was just thinking, like, in Saturday Night Live, people get so, like, kind of panned for cracking up. But in
Hmm.
the Carol Burnett show, you wanted them to crack up. It was even funnier when they cracked up.
Yeah, it was like they just sort of gave you a pass, whereas now it's like, you fucked up.
No, like Jimmy Fallon used to get right through the
He
coals because
did.
he would crack up so much, but I loved when he cracked up.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite Saturday Night Live I just said sketches is the Rachel
Past
Dratch.
tense of sketch.
That sketch
Yeah.
was Rachel Dratch's Debbie
Debbie
Downer
Downer, great one.
when Fallon and all of them were around the table. It was like the Disneyland when she's like feline aids, and I was like, I'm done. But they were cracking up so hard. I was like, I love that. So going back and just watching the sketches
The sketches is so
is the
fun.
best homework of all time.
One of Carol Burnett's performances that had a major influence on my childhood was her as Miss Hannigan in Annie.
I did not know that.
You didn't, weren't into that film. She
I
plays Miss
I didn't
Hannigan,
see it.
and as a child, she's in charge of this orphanage and she's very mean and she's an alcoholic. And I've rewatched it as an adult, and it's such an incredible performance. It's humorous, it's dark, it's really, really good. But as a child, it was scary.
Yeah.
And one of the most crazy things that happened as a kid is my mom would pretend to call Miss Hannigan if my sister and I were getting in like in trouble.
No, no.
Yes, so it's funny now, but like as a 6-year-old or whatever, when this was happening, it was terrifying. So she would be like, "You girls, I'm gonna call Miss Hannigan," and so she would like get on the phone and like pretend she was talking to Miss Hannigan, checking if there was any room for us. Like, like Miss Hannigan's like counting the girls and like, I don't know if I have room for them. And then she'd get off the phone and she'd be like, she doesn't have room for you right now, but you better not, fuck up again. She's not saying fuck up, but like, you better not mess up again, or I'm going to call back and she's going to send somebody for you. And then one time she made my younger sister pack a suitcase and
No.
sit outside and wait for Miss Hannigan. But Miss Hannigan, like after a while, she was like, "You can come back inside. She's not coming tonight." So Miss Hannigan,
Wow.
Carol Burnett was
Wow.
like this threatening being in my childhood. But I also knew her as the Carol Burnett's show. Like it was a separate, Hannigan was like a separate character.
Wait, did you see the Miss Hannigan first? So were you then absolutely shocked that, like, oh my God, she's funny?
I never had like a reckoning like, oh my God, that's the
Okay.
same person. But yeah, they weren't the same in my mind. Like I knew this was like there was like a funny lady and there was also this like scary character that I thought was kind of real because my mother was calling her.
I cannot believe. I mean, it's kind of brilliant parenting, right? Slash, maybe not
That's
the best idea, but everybody's doing the best
torturous.
they can.
Look, you're looking for
You have
anything to
kids
get the
now.
kids.
Have you with your kids brought back Mrs. Hannigan, or did you retire that bit?
I would have to call someone different. They don't know Miss Hannigan. I would have to call like Five
McBean?
Nights at Freddy's characters.
Can't believe your first introduction to Carol Burnett was like a scary. Is it Mrs. Hannigan? I don't know Annie that well at
I think
all.
it's Miss Hannigan because
Miss
she's
Hannigan,
unmarried and she keeps
of
calling
course.
some boyfriend and she's drunk all the time and she's like wearing lingerie and she's like horny and mad at these girls. She's making them clean and they're so sad.
I remember seeing some part. I think my older sister was watching some part of Annie. I'm sure it was this film, and she was crying and singing "Tomorrow" and the dog. And I remember running out of the room, being like, I want no part of it." And I've never seen Annie to this day. There's been 17 different films.
Yep.
There's plays.
It is a sad film. Yeah.
I just remember being like, I know I can't do this, but I didn't even realize that was Carol Burnett. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like her drama. She's done so many dramatic roles and Tonys and Grammys.
A
It's
decorated Broadway actress, singer, like really talented, comes from that world. And she didn't even know she wanted
UCLA.
to be a performer. Yeah. She was like a writer and had to take an acting class. And she said hold on, I wrote that I have this quote of hers. Don't ask me why, but when we were in front of the audience, I suddenly decided I was going to stretch out all my words. And my first line came out, I'm back. They laughed and it felt great. All of a sudden, after so much coldness and emptiness in my life, I knew the sensation of all that warmth wrapping around me. I had always been a quiet, shy, sad sort of girl, and then everything changed for me. You spend the rest of your life hoping you'll hear a laugh that great again. Carol Burnett.
Come on.
We love you.
I just wish right now she would just pop up on this Zoom.
Wouldn't that be
What are the
cool?
odds? Did you hook us up?
God,
Wait, is she not coming?
that's not part of the show. I don't know if that
You
was
said
misleading.
you said whoever I pick pops up on the
Did
show.
I say that?
Well,
Gosh.
you
I
inferred
did make
it.
a lot of promises about how fun it would be here and like,
Yeah.
with Carol, I said.
Yes.
Um, but I do
What I put a nice
not.
shirt on.
You did. Was that a chambray? Is that what that's called?
It's just a denim shirt, but I put it on for Carol. I didn't put it on for you.
Not for me. Well, unfortunately, it's just you and I, but I feel like we've had fun.
We've had fun. I just really thought Carol would pop up. It would just be absolutely amazing right now if a drag queen just dressed as Carol Burnett would pop up.
Ooh, I could get drag queens as these women that I'm talking about. I think in phase two of the podcast, that would be cool.
Yeah,
Whoever I'm talking about does make an appearance at the end, or maybe phase two is a drag queen of that person. Some type of cameo at the end.
absolutely.
We got to
Here's a
heighten it up for season two.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just do this again in season two so you can get Carol Burnett to pop back up. Here's like this so I'm doing my clip deep dive of Carol Burnett, and when she's getting her 800th award, I can't remember where I saw it. She said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." She was quoting a quote. We've heard that quote before, but when she said it, I was like, "That's it. Like that is it." It's like how she made us feel. It felt like this old sort of um I think I have this nostalgia of you'd sit down and people would come into your living room every night and entertain you, like this.
Yeah.
That's really how it felt. It felt like we all sat down as a family and Carol Burnett would come into our living room and just endless laughter and the Q&A and the tugging of
The
the
tugging
ear
of
for
the
her
ear.
grandmother.
Something
It
about the
just,
tugging of the ear really pulled at my heartstrings. Like
oh
it was to
God.
tell her grandmother like hello,
And she
and
loved
then
Hello and I Love You.
and then
I
and
know.
then she did it forever, even after her grandma passed, and it just was like this sweet, like I
Yeah.
love you to everyone. Carol Burnett.
Just, yeah, that's what I mean. It just, there's so many, I don't know, it's different now. And I think it's like, it's like a time and a place for everything. Cause I still love like sitting down and watching Saturday Night Live and,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, I love comedies but there's just a nostalgia, I think, factor, a family factor, a nostalgia factor that Carol Carol Burnett. Plus, also she was like has her third husband. They got married when she was 68. Like she's just like a badass. She's just like, you know what I mean? She's just everything
Yeah.
she did. I just think, it's just sort of like a moment in time for me with Carol Burnett for sure.
I love her relationship with Lucille Ball too.
Yeah. It seemed like they were, I mean, can you imagine just like Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett just hanging out?
Yeah, what? Two legends just helping each other? She said,
Were they
I guess Carol was doing a show and Lucy came to the show and then went backstage and was like, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you, kid. And then they were like friends ever since.
I just, I mean, fly on the wall. Like, you play those games. It's like, dinner party, living or
Yeah,
dead.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even like I don't have to think about it. Well, I do sometimes I think about it because then I go into my sports brain and I'm like, okay, well, how many female athletes can I get around a table? Okay, so that's a different discussion. But as far as our world is concerned, you sit down with a couple people having, I was gonna say a beer, but they don't drink beer. I would say like Lucille Ball feels like martini. What do you think Carol Burnett would drink?
I know this. She has a drink. She drinks Cosmopolitans that she wants in a specific recipe. So she has a card that she gives a bartender that says, "This is Carol Burnett's Cosmo recipe." Like maybe it says like you met Carol Burnett, and she signs it. So it's like a little keepsake for them, and it's like, please make my drink this way.
This is what I'm talking about. This
Yes.
is like the next level. Like, of course, she's got a homemade Cosmo. It's Carol Burnett.
Yeah. And that's actually a
Just
delicious drink, and it's a little femmy for
delicious
me, but
drink.
it's really good.
This is a full circle moment because when I was in my 20s in Manhattan, Sex in the City,
Yeah,
couldn't get enough of it. And we drank Cosmos like it was our job.
they're really
Too many.
tasty.
And then I had to give up vodka because it made me destructive. But that's another podcast.
Yeah,
But Cosmos, I mean, that was like we drank Cosmos nonstop. And now
delicious.
we'll have to bring back Cosmos Carol Burnett style.
Yeah, I can forward you that recipe.
Please do. I mean, just amazing. Can you imagine you and I, we go to a bar and we
Yeah.
slip a cocktail recipe? They'd be like, get the fuck
Get the
out.
fuck out of here.
If I was a bartender, I'd be like, hell no.
Yeah,
But Carol
go
Burnett,
fuck
not a
however
problem.
you want it, ma'am. Royalty.
Yeah, royalty.
Well, she's a legend. You're a legend. Thanks for
You're
talking
a
about
legend.
Carol. We're all legends. That was really fun. Let's plug ourselves. If you're listening to this, please follow and rate the podcast and subscribe to things and follow Erin. What's your handle there? Erin K. Foley. Is that where we find you?
ErinKFoley.com is a website. And if you're a sports fan, I have my rebooted podcast is called Her Lights on, I think, it's technically 268, but it's also the reboot is number 5 with the just focus of women's sports. It's
268.
well, I did a podcast called Sports Without Balls for like 6 years. Then I stopped, got into like TV writing and all that stuff, and now I'm like, oh, I've got to bring it back. So I rebranded it as Her Lights and just kind of kept going with the feed. Technically, it's
Yeah.
268/5, but yeah.
It's a lot
So
of content, buddy.
a lot of content, yes, but I'm obsessed. So it's super fun.
Well, it's very funny. Erin is hilarious and knows a lot about sports. So check her out and follow He's Funny podcast and rate and review, please. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. All right. Bye bye.